Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, there are some figures from history whose names just instantly bring things to mind, right? They spark debate, controversy.
Absolutely. Names that echo down the centuries.
Exactly. And one of those has got to be Niccolò Machiavelli.
Oh, definitely. Just say the name Machiavelli, and people immediately have an image, often not a very flattering one.
Right. You think cunning, manipulation, maybe that famous phrase, the ends justify the means. And his book, The Prince. Wow. It's been, well, loved, hated, definitely misunderstood for centuries.
Vilified, celebrated, put on a pedestal, thrown off it again. It's had quite a ride. And you're right, many people dismiss it without really grappling with what's inside.
That's what we want to do today, though, this deep dive. Our mission really isn't to, defend everything he wrote about or say we should all become cynical manipulators. No.
Not at all. That's a caricature.
Exactly. We want to move past those stereotypes, peel back the layers, and actually pull out the practical, actionable stuff from his thinking. We're calling it Machiavelli's timeless lessons for modern life. Because his ideas, these raw observations about power, about people, about strategy, they still hit home today, don't they? In leadership, politics, business, even just how we handle our own lives.
They really do. And it's so important to remember, like you said, he wasn't just dreaming this up in a library. Machiavelli was a diplomat, a politician, living through incredibly turbulent times in Florence. Constant upheaval, betrayals, the state always seemingly on the brink.
Right, so he saw it firsthand.
He saw it. The Prince, especially, is less about some ideal moral code and more a description of how power actually works, how it's won, how it's kept, how it's lost, based on what he saw and studied.
Okay.
So this dive, it's not about becoming a villain. It's about getting a clearer, maybe more realistic lens on how things operate. Understanding those sometimes uncomfortable truths about human behavior and power helps you be more effective, more strategic. Not cynical necessarily, but definitely clear-eyed.
Clear-eyed. I like that. That's the goal. So what are we going to unpack today? We'll look at understanding power, really understanding it, strategic thinking, leadership, especially when things are tough.
Yeah.
That whole ends justify the means thing.
Yeah, we need to tackle that one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly for right now, adaptability, what he called virtue.
Crucial.
Yeah. So this isn't about manipulation. It's about getting equipped, getting a more realistic, maybe more empowering way to navigate things. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
First big idea then, understanding power and influence, getting beyond idealism, getting real. Machiavelli's core belief, right, was that leaders have to see power as it is, not how they wish it was, not the textbook version.
Exactly. And that's such a fundamental split from, a lot of purely theoretical or aspirational leadership talk. He was a pragmatist through and through.
So what did that look like, his pragmatism?
Well, he was looking at the messy, unpredictable reality of people and politics in his day. Italy was fragmented, constantly shifting alliances, warfare. It was rough. He wasn't trying to design a perfect world where everyone's automatically good.
No utopia here.
Not even close.
Yeah.
He was basically saying, look, this is how power is used by actual humans with all their ambitions, fears, self-interest, alongside maybe some nobler goals. If you want to get anything done, you have to deal with that reality.
Ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
Precisely. Ignoring that people are driven by, fear, greed, ambition, as well as maybe duty or love. That just makes you ineffective. You have to see the whole picture.
So it's not about being cynical, just realistic about motivations.
It's about being clear-eyed, recognizing that under the surface, under the official titles and org charts, there's often this whole informal network, these hidden currents of influence that actually drive decisions.
Yeah.
You have to see that landscape.
Which leads straight into this modern lesson we pulled out. If you want to succeed in your career, social life, or leadership, you must know how influence works in real environments, not just in theory, knowing how it really works.
Yeah, and knowing how it works means digging deeper. It's about figuring out who really calls the shots, not just who has the corner office or the fancy title.
Okay.
It's understanding the unspoken rules, the informal hierarchies that exist in any group, what truly motivates people. What are the different factions or interests at play? You learn this by watching, by observing behavior carefully.
Can you give an example, like in an office?
Sure. In a company, the CEO has the final say on paper. But maybe the real power to get a project moving lies with a veteran project manager who knows everyone and how everything actually gets done.
Right, the person who knows the system.
Or maybe it's the executive assistant who controls access to the boss and knows all the informal networks. Or that super respected senior engineer whose quiet nod of approval is needed before any big tech decision really flies. Their influence isn't on the chart, but it's real.
We're in a community group.
Same idea. You might have an elected leader, but maybe the real influence rests with a long-respected elder or a key local business owner whose opinion carries huge weight.
So how do you figure that out? How do you spot the real influencers?
You observe. Who do people turn to when there's a real problem? Who actually gets listened to in crunch time? Whose ideas seem to gain traction even without official backing? Power is often fluid. It's not always where the title says it is.
So it's about understanding those levers.
Exactly. Understanding the actual levers of power and influence lets you navigate much more effectively. You can build support, get things done, avoid stepping on hidden landmines. It's not about manipulation, it's about smart navigation. You can build influence yourself, even without formal authority, by becoming indispensable, building those relationships, being the problem solver.
That really makes you think. So for you listening, think about your world, work, community, maybe even family. Who holds the real influence? What really drives decisions? Getting a handle on that, that's the first step.
It truly is.
Okay, second big takeaway from Machiavelli. This one can be a bit challenging. Strategic thinking.
Yeah.
Effectiveness in competitive arenas. He basically says strategy often matters more than morals in competitive situations.
Yeah.
That can definitely raise eyebrows.
Oh, it does. And again, this is where people jump to the wrong conclusions. He's not saying be unethical. Forget that.
Okay, so what is he saying?
He's saying, pragmatically, that when you're in a really competitive environment, fierce business competition, tough negotiations, even some personal challenges, your strategy, how well you plan and execute, is often the deciding factor between success and failure.
More than just being good or having the right intentions.
Sometimes, yes, because sticking rigidly to an idealistic moral position without a solid strategy can actually make you vulnerable. Your competitors might not be playing by those same idealistic rules.
Could you get wiped out?
You can, yeah. It's about recognizing the reality of the game board. Success often hinges on being smart, aware, prepared. It's about effectiveness, not necessarily abstract goodness, especially when the stakes are high and the opposition is playing hardball. It's the difference between hoping for the best and actively planning for success.
And that distinction, effective versus ideal, is key. The modern lesson here is, in business or negotiations, sometimes doing what is effective is more important than what is ideal. This doesn't mean being unethical, but being smart, aware, and prepared to adapt.
Precisely. Let's make that concrete. Think about a tech company. The ideal might be just build the best product and assume the market rewards you.
Which doesn't always happen.
Right. A more, let's say, strategically aware approach might involve acquiring a smaller competitor, not just for their tech, but maybe for a key patent that blocks a bigger rival, or forming an unexpected alliance to create a whole new market space, sidestepping the main competition.
These aren't necessarily evil moves.
No, they're effective business strategies. They're designed to win in a tough arena. Or think about a nonprofit fighting for funding for, say, an environmental cause.
Okay.
The ideal is just present your pure noble vision. But a strategic approach means understanding the specific interests, maybe even the political agendas, of potential big donors or government funders.
Tailoring the message.
Tailoring the message, maybe framing the project to align with their stated goals, maybe building a coalition with other groups you wouldn't normally partner with to increase your clout. It's about playing the game smartly within the existing system, not just hoping your goodness shines through.
Even in personal life, maybe, like a difficult family discussion.
Absolutely. Say you're discussing care for an elderly parent. The ideal is everyone agrees perfectly. The strategic approach is understanding each person's fears, their financial limits, their emotional buttons, and then framing the conversation to address those specific things, offering options, maybe finding a compromise that isn't perfect for anyone but is workable for everyone.
It's about foresight and planning, not being nasty.
Exactly. It's about playing chess, thinking ahead, understanding the other players, rather than just, wandering onto the board and hoping for the best.
Makes sense. All right, now, here's where it gets really interesting. Probably the most famous or infamous bit. Leadership in uncertain times. Balancing respect and authority, that whole better to be feared than loved thing.
Ah, yes, the classic. Rulers should aim for both, he said, but if you have to choose.
Being feared is safer.
Yeah.
But The crucial part, the bit everyone forgets, is that parenthetical phrase, right? Without hatred.
That is everything. Seriously, overlooking without hatred completely twists what he meant. He was absolutely not saying be a tyrant, rule through terror, be cruel.
So what did feared mean to him then?
It meant commanding respect and obedience because you're seen as decisive, strong, consistent. People understand there are consequences for crossing you or ignoring directives. It's a fear born of respect for competence and resolve, not terror of random cruelty.
Okay, respect for strength, not fear of a monster.
Precisely. Think about it. If you're only loved, people might walk all over you. You might seem weak, indecisive. Machiavelli saw leaders fall because they relied too much on affection and couldn't make tough calls.
Right.
But if you rule only through fear generated by cruelty and hatred, you breed resentment. Deep, simmering opposition that will eventually boil over into rebellion or assassination. He saw that happen time and time again. History was his lab.
So hatred is counterproductive.
Absolutely counterproductive to stability. He specifically warned rulers against things like seizing property or dishonoring women because those actions create profound, lasting hatred that undermines any authority. Fear, in his sense, leads to caution and compliance. Hatred leads to desperation and revolt. The balance is key. You need enough authority to maintain order, but not so much cruelty that you push people too far.
It's a tightrope.
A very fine line. He was also skeptical of mercenaries. For this reason, they fight for pay, not loyalty or respect. A leader needed their own forces, bound by something stronger than just money.
So projecting strength and consistency, not just trying to be popular or being a despot. Which brings us to the modern lesson. Good leadership balances respect with authority. Whether managing a team or leading a movement, assertiveness is often more effective than seeking approval.
And this applies directly today. Think about a project manager facing a tight deadline. They might need to make unpopular decisions, reallocate resources, push back hard on scope creep, maybe even remove someone who isn't pulling their weight.
Tough calls.
Very tough. But by being assertive, clear, and focused on the goal, they earn respect for their effectiveness, even if people don't love every decision. They're leading, not trying to win a popularity contest. People might grumble, but they respect the decisiveness and the results.
What about higher-ups? A CEO in a crisis.
Same principle, higher stakes. A CEO leading through a recession or massive industry disruption often has to make incredibly assertive, painful choices, restructuring, layoffs, pivoting the whole business.
Things people will definitely not like.
Exactly, but constantly seeking approval in that situation, trying to please everyone, that leads to paralysis, indecision. It makes the leader look weak when strength is most needed. People ultimately follow leaders who have a clear direction, communicate it, and have the guts to make the hard calls to get there. It's about effectiveness generating respect over the long haul.
That really resonates. You think about leaders you respect. It's often that decisiveness, that willingness to make the call, even if it's unpopular, that stands out, isn't it?
Often, yes. It's the perceived strength and clarity of purpose.
Okay, now for the big one. The phrase everyone throws around, the ends can justify the means. This just sounds bad, doesn't it? Like a license for anything goes.
It sounds terrible out of context, and that's how it's usually used. But again, the nuance is critical. Machiavelli wasn't giving a free pass for any atrocity just because you want something.
So no cruelty for cruelty's sake.
Definitely not. His argument, rooted in statecraft, was more like, sometimes really uncomfortable, difficult decisions are necessary for stability or success. The key word is necessary, and often for a collective purpose, not just personal gain.
Necessary for what, though?
For the survival and stability of the state. Remember, he's thinking about preventing civil war, defending against invasion, keeping order so people can actually live their lives. In that context, he observed, rulers sometimes had to take harsh actions, maybe executing a rival plotting treason or imposing a tough tax to fund the army that were painful, but were seen as justified by the greater good of preserving the state itself and thus protecting all its citizens.
Okay, so the end wasn't just any goal. It was specifically the stability and security of the whole society.
That was the crucial context for him. The means were only justifiable if they served that specific high-stakes end. It wasn't a blank check for personal ambition or pointless brutality.
That reframes it significantly. It's about responsibility to the collective, which leads to the modern lesson. In life and leadership, tough choices are unavoidable. Don't let guilt or hesitation stop you from doing what's necessary, especially if the greater good is served. But defining necessary and greater good, that's tricky.
It's incredibly tricky, and context is everything. Let's think about modern examples, knowing these are complex and often painful. Business. A large company has a division, bleeding money, dragging the whole enterprise down, threatening thousands of jobs. The tough choice, the necessary action, might be to downsize or even close that division. It causes real pain for those who lose their jobs, no question. But the greater good being served is the survival of the company and the jobs of the majority. The leader making that call feels the weight, but acts for the collective stability.
Right. Or in a nonprofit.
Imagine a public health nonprofit with limited funds. They have two great programs. One helps a few people with a rare disease. The other provides vaccines for thousands against a common illness. Both worthy.
But they can't fully fund both.
Exactly. The leader might have to make the agonizing choice to prioritize the vaccine program because it serves the greater good of the larger population more effectively, preventing wider suffering. It's a harsh reality of resource allocation.
Even personally. Does this apply?
I think it can, carefully. It's not about being cruel to people in your life, but think about setting firm boundaries with someone who is genuinely toxic, constantly undermining you, causing distress. Deciding to limit contact or even end that relationship might cause short-term pain for you and them. But it's a necessary action for the greater good of your own mental health, your stability, your ability to function well. You're taking a difficult step for long-term well-being.
These aren't easy decisions. They come with a burden.
A huge burden. It requires responsibility, foresight, and a clear sense of purpose beyond just avoiding discomfort. It's not about being amoral. It's often about shouldering a difficult moral responsibility.
Which really makes you grapple with. How do we define that greater good? How do we weigh the costs? And how do we stay accountable when making these tough calls? It's a constant ethical balancing act.
It absolutely is. There are no easy answers there.
Okay, final lesson, and maybe the most empowering one for today. Adaptability. Virtue. The power to shape one's fate. Machiavelli's concept of virtue. It's not virtue like morality, is it? It's something else.
Completely different. Yeah, virtue for Machiavelli isn't about being morally upright in the conventional sense. It's this dynamic mix of skill, courage, foresight, decisiveness, this sort of cunning strength that allows a person to navigate and even shape their circumstances.
Navigate what?
Navigate fortuna, fortune, luck, fate, external circumstances, all those unpredictable things life throws at you. Machiavelli saw the world as this constant interplay between virtue, human agency and skill, and fortuna, chance and external forces.
So virtue is how you deal with fortuna.
Exactly. It's the ability to be flexible, to act boldly when opportunity knocks, to mitigate risks when challenges arise. It's about being proactive, not just reactive. Assessing a changing situation quickly, figuring out the implications, and then pivoting your strategy effectively. It's not a fixed trait. It's an active, adaptive force. He believed you could, through virtue, influence maybe half of what happens to you, rather than being completely tossed about by fate.
He admired people who had this.
Oh, absolutely. He often pointed to successor Borgia, a controversial figure, no doubt, ruthless even.
Definitely controversial.
But Machiavelli saw in Borgia a master of virtue. Borgia seized opportunities, acted decisively, adapted his tactics constantly to consolidate power, often using harsh means, which Machiavelli acknowledged. He saw someone who, for a time, bent fortuna to his will through sheer skill, boldness, and adaptability. The lesson wasn't be like Borgia, but look how effective virtue can be in shaping outcomes, even if Borgia ultimately fell due to bad luck and illness at a crucial moment.
So it's about being nimble, changing course when needed. Like water, maybe.
That's a great analogy. Flowing around obstacles, finding new paths, which connects perfectly to the modern lesson. In today's fast-changing world, adaptability is power. Whether you're navigating social dynamics, tech, or career moves, being flexible, strategic, and bold is key.
And that feels incredibly relevant right now.
Possibly the most relevant lesson of all. The world changes so fast now, right? Think about careers. It's not about learning one skill for life anymore.
No way.
It's about being the person who can pivot. Learn new tech quickly, pick up new skills constantly, adapt your whole approach if the market shifts. That ability to unlearn and relearn, that's pure virtue. The marketing pro who masters AI analytics after building a career in print ads, that's virtue in action.
What about outside of work?
In personal relationships, too. Life throws curveballs, job loss, illness, big changes. Adaptability means adjusting expectations, communicating through conflict, finding new ways forward together, resilience.
So it's not just reacting, it's anticipating.
Yes, that's the strategic part. It's foresight. Thinking ahead, having backup plans, being open to information that challenges your current path, being willing to cut your losses and change direction if something isn't working, even if you've invested a lot in it.
That takes courage.
It takes courage and clear thinking. That strategic agility is what gives you real agency, allows you to shape things rather than just be carried along. And you cultivate it through practice, learning from mistakes, trying new things, reflecting on how you could handle situations better.
Assess, decide, act, adjust. That really separates the drivers from the passengers, doesn't it? That's real power.
That's virtue.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. We've talked about power, strategy, leadership, tough choices, adaptability. What does this Machiavellian thinking, this pragmatic lens, actually look like in action today across different fields?
You see echoes of it everywhere, often without the label. Let's connect the dots. Think about entrepreneurs. They're practically defined by this stuff, aren't they?
How so?
Well, they don't just launch a product and hope. They intensely study the market, understanding power dynamics, devise clever ways to outsmart competition, strategy, identify niches, position themselves smartly, and crucially, they pivot. They adapt constantly based on feedback and changing conditions. That's virtue. Building a startup is a masterclass in Machiavellian pragmatism and agility.
Okay, good example. What about politicians?
Well, it's no secret many still read The Prince. Not as an evil playbook, hopefully, but for insights into power. They have to navigate complex power structures, alliances, public opinion, vested interests, understanding power. They need to make tough calls for governance, balancing competing demands, leadership, ends, means. They're constantly assessing who to trust, when to push, when to compromise. It's Machiavelli 101 in many ways.
Right. And for us, regular professionals in our careers, how does it apply day to day?
It's huge for career advancement. It's about reading office dynamics like a chessboard. Who really influences decisions? Power, who has informal authority? How can you position yourself strategically, strategy, to gain visibility, build alliances, get resources for your projects?
So not manipulation, but smart navigation.
Exactly. Maybe you notice a key director, not even your boss, holds the real purse strings for project funding. Strategically building a relationship there, understanding their priorities, framing your proposals accordingly, that's effective navigation. It's developing strategies for growth, being adaptable to new roles, or tech, virtue. It's playing the game intelligently.
And even in personal life, we touch on boundaries.
Yeah, that point about using boundaries and strategy to prevent manipulation and promote self-respect is really key. It's about recognizing power dynamics, even in personal relationships with family, friends, partners.
Recognizing manipulation.
Recognizing it, yes.
Right.
And then applying strategic thinking, setting clear, firm boundaries, and sometimes making those uncomfortable decisions the personal ends justify the means, like distancing yourself from someone truly toxic to protect your own well-being, the greater good of your own stability.
It's about resilience and self-awareness.
It is. It's not about becoming manipulative yourself, but about understanding the realities of human interaction so you can protect yourself, operate effectively, and build healthier dynamics in the long run.
So when you strip away the myths, Machiavelli isn't about being evil. It's about a really profound, realistic grasp of people, power, strategy, lessons that are still incredibly relevant.
Yeah.
Understanding the game, playing smart, not necessarily dirty.
That sums it up well. He offers this pragmatic toolkit for dealing with the world as it is. It emphasizes effectiveness, adaptability, making clear-eyed decisions. It's about having foresight, courage, and the ability to act when needed. It empowers you to be more effective, to have more agency.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to take away. If adaptability, that Machiavellian virtue, is real power in our world today, think about this. What's one area in your life right now where you could apply a bit more of this Machiavellian approach? Not ruthlessness, remember, but maybe more realism, more strategic thinking, maybe more decisive action. Where could you lean in to actually shape your situation rather than just reacting to whatever happens?
A powerful question.
Yeah. Give it some thought. Look at your world, identify an opportunity, and consider how little dose of strategic pragmatism might make a real difference for you.
Food for thought indeed.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Machiavelli's timeless and maybe surprising lessons. We hope you gain some new perspectives. Until next time.